شنو السورة؟ يلا بابا خليه هناك يلا.
And you're reciting today? You're reciting, huh? Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. If I can invite everybody, please, to be seated. I would like to welcome everybody again tonight. Tonight we have a special guest, very well known. Mr. Torfa is with us, introducing his book, inshallah, after the speech of our dear Imam of the mosque. And before we start the recitation of Dua al-Quran by our dear brother Ali Al-Qazwini, I would like to ask the mothers and the fathers who have small children, if they can be with you and under your supervision, please do so. But if not, send them upstairs. We have teachers up there, so they can help your children to learn something. As you all know, we would love to see this hall as quiet as possible and as beneficial as possible. So please, if you have children running around, make sure they are under your complete supervision, or you send them upstairs. So without any further ado, I would like to invite our dear Ali Qazwini to the podium for his Quranic recitation. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum. Inshallah, tonight I will be reading Surah Al-Mulk. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. تبارك الذي بيده الملك وهو على كل شيء قدير. الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا وهو العزيز الغفور. الذي خلق 7 سماوات طباقا ما ترى في خلق الرحمن من تفاوت فارجع البصر هل ترى من فطور ثم ارجع البصر كرتين ينقلب إليك البصر خاسئا وهو حسير. ولقد زينا السماء الدنيا بمصابيح وجعلناها رجوما للشياطين واعتدنا لهم عذاب السعير. وللذين كفروا بربهم عذاب جهنم وبئس المصير. إذا ألقوا فيها سمعوا لها شهيقا وهي تفور تكاد تميز من الغيظ كلما ألقي فيها فوج سألهم خزنتها ألم يأتكم نذير قالوا بلى قد جاءنا نذير فكذبنا وقلنا ما نزل الله من شيء إن أنتم إلا في ضلال كبير. وقالوا لو كنا نسمع أو نعقل ما كنا في أصحاب السعير فاعترفوا بذنبهم فسحقا لأصحاب السعير. إن الذين يخشون ربهم بالغيب لهم مغفرة وأجر كبير. وأسروا قولكم أو جهروا به إنه عليم بذات الصدور. ألا يعلم من خلق وهو اللطيف الخبير. هو الذي جعل لكم الأرض ذلولا فامشوا في مناكبها وكلوا من رزقه وإليه النشور. آمنتم من في السماء أن يخسف بكم الأرض فإذا هي تمور أم أمنتم من في السماء أن يرسل عليكم حاصبا فستعلمون كيف نذير. ولقد كذب الذين من قبلهم فكيف كان نكير. أولم يروا إلى الطير فوقهم صافات ويقبضن ما يمسكهن إلا الرحمن إنه بكل شيء بصير أمن هذا الذي هو جند لكم ينصركم من دون الرحمن إن الكافرون إلا في غرور أمن هذا الذي يرزقكم إن أمسك رزقه بل لجوا في عتو ونفور أفمن يمشي مكبا على وجهه أهدى أمن يمشي سويا على صراط مستقيم قل هو الذي أنشأكم وجعل لكم السمع والأبصار والأفئدة قليلا ما تشكرون قل هو الذي ذراكم في الأرض وإليه تحشرون ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين قل إنما العلم عند الله وإنما أنا نذير مبين فلما رأوه زلفة سيئت وجوه الذين كفروا وقيل هذا الذي كنتم به تدعون قل أرأيتم إن أهلكني الله ومن معي أو رحمنا فمن يجير الكافرين من عذاب أليم قل هو الرحمن آمنا به وعليه توكلنا فستعلمون من هو في ضلال مبين قل أرأيتم إن أصبح ماؤكم غورا فمن يأتيكم بماء معين صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوات.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وأصحابه المنتجبين ومن تبعهم بإحسان وإيمان إلى يوم الدين. Good to see you all. And hope you are all safe, inshallah, in your homes. I know we have fires, raging fires all over the state. But with paying sadaqah, inshallah, paying charity, act of charity, feeding, helping those who are misfortunate, and with Quranic du'as and recitations, you will be protected, inshallah ta'ala. So, I'm going to have a very brief introduction tonight because we have an honorable guest. And my introduction is on Surah Hud. You know, we are going through Surah Hud alayhi salam, and we have reached verse 77. And this verse speaks about the community of Lut, the Sodomites, people of Sodom. And they have a special story. We will discuss it in the following weeks. It will take us about 2 weeks to speak about this story in Surah Hud. But as a prelude to this story, many people in the community, they ask, what is our stand on homosexuality? What does Islam say? Nowadays, you may find this trend in your school, in your neighborhood, sometimes in your families. Don't be surprised. I've been approached by Muslim parents who say that we have this problem in our families with our sons and daughters. So what do we say about this? What is Islam's stand on this? How do we deal with this? This is not something easy. I believe this is the most difficult task that we have, dealing with such conditions, with such state. The angels, they left the village of Abraham going to his nephew's village, Lut. Lut is also a messenger of God. To tell him to pack up, basically pack up and leave, but without his wife. They asked him, leave your wife behind. إِنَّهُ مُصِيبُهَا مَا أَصَابَهُمْ. She's going to be afflicted with them, punished with them. And of course, Lut was a messenger who served Sodom. Sodom today is in Jordan, between Jordan and Palestine, in that area. Sodom and Gomorrah. These were 5 villages, Sodom and the neighboring towns. So he was sent to them to ask them to worship God and to stop, to quit this inappropriate, unethical sexual behavior that they had, approaching men approaching men. So he had this difficult task to go to a community. Probably all of them, maybe most of them, were practicing this. They call it the practice of sodomites today. To be polite, we put it this way, of Qawm Lut, the sodomites. And the way they fulfilled their desire with the same sex. And this story is not only in the Quran. This is a biblical story. Story that is mentioned also in book of Genesis. So he was faced with stiff resistance and mockery. Mockery. They made fun of him. We will discuss this in details when we come to these verses, interesting verses in Surah Hud. But going back to this question, how do we deal with this? Number one, my friends, in chapter 30, Surah Al-Rum, verse 30. So 30, very easy to memorize. 30. Allah says, فِطْرَةَ اللَّهِ الَّتِي فَطَرَ النَّاسَ عَلَيْهَا لَا تَبْدِيلَ لِخَلْقِ اللَّهِ. God basically says that I have programmed the humanity, programmed them because I'm the creator. I have programmed my creature in a way that they behave in a certain way, in a human way, in an honorable way. فِطْرَةَ اللَّهِ الَّتِي فَطَرَ النَّاسَ عَلَيْهَا. Fitra means the primordial nature of the human that has been set by God for the humanity. التي فطر الناس عليها, which he originated mankind with it from day one. This programming started from day one and it is not going to end until the last day. التي فطر الناس عليها. He originated, he created the mankind upon this primordial disposition or nature or a programming, if you will. لا تبديل لخلق الله. There is no alteration to God's will, to God's programming, to God's path in this life. We cannot alter it. Especially the religious community. The first meaning of religion, my friends, is discipline. If there is no discipline in religion, religion is going to lose its meaning and its purpose. If you go to a school and that school does not have discipline, if you go to a company, a corporation, and they don't have discipline, if you go to the army and they don't have discipline, if you go to a society, they don't have discipline, a family that does not have discipline, they lose their meaning. So religion has a discipline. And we have to follow that discipline. We have to respect that discipline. فطرة الله التي فطر الناس عليها لا تبديل لخلق الله. This is something to be followed, to be respected. We should not follow our own desires. We should see what the commander says. We should follow what the commander gives to us, the orders that he gives to us. This is religion. This is number one. Number two, my friends, marriage always has been, always since the creation of Adam and Eve, it has been between a man and a woman. That's the natural way of doing it. And we have to follow the same thing. We cannot change that. Why? Because God introduced marriage for a reason, for an important reason. God says if you want to excel in this life, if you want to accomplish your goals in this life, if you want to have a safe journey in this life, then you have to find a spouse, a partner, a friend from the opposite gender, from the opposite sex, not from the same sex. Because every one of us, male or female, we have some special attributes which is not found in the others. Men, they have a special attributes, special character, special psychology, special emotions, special needs, which is not found in women. And women, they have special character, special attributes, special wealth, special potentials that is not found in men. This is why we need each other. We integrate each other. When you put a man next to a woman, they integrate each other. They complete each other. It's a necessity. No matter how that man is powerful and influential and intelligent, he cannot continue his journey in this life without a female partner. No matter how intelligent and smart the female is, she cannot continue her journey in this life without being with a husband, with a man in her life. We need each other. We integrate each other. We complete each other. So it has to be between a man and a woman. This is the nature of this universe. This is the programming that God introduced to us. We cannot change it. We cannot play with it. We cannot. We cannot alter this. We cannot tamper with this. This is a rule that has been decided for us before our physical creation, before we came into being in this life. God has predestined this for us, that you marry someone from the opposite gender. This topic, though, is very sensitive, especially in the West, and very controversial too. And therefore, we have to approach it with sensitivity. We have to approach it with rationality. When we speak about homosexuality, whether you are a pro or against, do not be emotional. We should not be emotional. We should not be biased. We should not be angry. We should approach it with rationality and understanding and openness. And we should be very sensitive to this subject. Because consider the victim is one of your family, one of your children, one of your relatives, one of your cousins. How do you deal with that? If you find out someone in your family suffers from this, do you curse him? Do you send him to hellfire immediately? Or you try to understand him? You try to help him out? Yeah, you try to reach out to him or to her. You try to find a solution, a human solution. And here, my friends, we have to differentiate between two things. Number one, those who are homosexual, they are human beings. So we have to acknowledge their humanness. We have to acknowledge their contribution to their societies. Some of them, they have a great contribution to their societies. We should not neglect that or overlook that. And between the act of homosexuality. So when it comes to the first one, the people, we have to respect them. We cannot reject them. We cannot push them away from our societies, from our circles, from our families. But when it comes to the second one, the act itself, we reject it. We don't condone that. It's a sin. It's a cardinal sin, not only in Islam, in all religions. It's a sin. Tilka hududullah. God says, these are my boundaries. Respect my boundaries. Don't bring your desire, put your desire and your own understanding above my boundaries. Tilka hududullah. So we differentiate between two things. We differentiate between those who are human. So we have to try to help them. Now, sometimes we have been told that scientifically proven that there is no solution to this. They cannot change themselves. We've been told sometimes, if this is true, if this is really true, they cannot change themselves, then we have to find a solution, but we cannot condone their act. We separate between the human himself and his or her acts. The human we accept, we respect, but the acts we don't respect, we don't condone, we don't encourage, we don't tolerate. We don't tolerate the act. Because it's a crime, it's a sin. It goes against God's will, it goes against human behavior and human morality and human ethics. So we differentiate between the two. And some people ask me, many people ask me, what do you think? What does your religion say? What do you think personally? I say, those are human beings. Sometimes you are afflicted with poverty. Sometimes you are afflicted with loneliness. You are lonely in this life. Sometimes you are afflicted with a disease. Sometimes you are afflicted with a tyrant. Your country is ruled by a tyrant. This is an affliction. And sometimes it's a specific sexual orientation. It's also an affliction. So we have to help, but we don't condone. We don't condone. And some people ask me, would God send those people to paradise? I really don't know the answer. God would never tell anyone that who he is going to send to paradise and who is not going to send to paradise. We don't know. We are asked to follow God and his rules. Now it's up to him on that day to send all mankind to hellfire or to send all of them to paradise. This has nothing to do with us. This is not our decision. Maliki yawmiddin. Allah is the controller of that day. The keys for paradise or hellfire is only in his hand. It's in nobody's hand, only God's hand. But they should not practice that act. I say, as long as they have only feelings, but they don't practice it, maybe they're going to be saved. God knows. But they should not practice it, because practicing that act is a sin. Is a sin. And a cardinal sin, not just a normal sin. So this is what we think, my understanding of the Quran, my understanding of the Islamic tradition. But again, I say that those people, we have to sympathize with them, not in terms of agreeing with them. No. Sympathy does not mean you agree with the person. Does not mean. Sometimes you sympathize with a criminal because he went into the wrong direction. Does not mean that you condone his criminality, his acts. But we have to consider them a human being so we can bring them, probably we can bring them back to God, inshallah. So, having said that, inshallah, we will continue on Surah Hud, story of Prophet Lut, in the next coming weeks. By the way, Salatul Eid, Eid al-Adha, inshallah, it's going to be on August 22nd, which is, I believe, Wednesday. August 22nd, Wednesday at 7:30 a.m. because we have neighbors here. It's a working day for them, for us. So we begin the prayers at 7:30, inshallah, August 22nd. So the day of Arafah is August 21st, inshallah. And then tonight, we have an honorable guest, Professor Talal Turfi. He's from Dearborn, Michigan, and he is a prolific author. He has written several books in several fields. So the book tonight, it's Awakening the Spirit. Yes? Pure Hearts. Pure Hearts. Yes. It's similar. Spirits and Pure Hearts, inshallah. Similar. So he's going to sign the book. It's a free of charge. After he finishes, inshallah, his presentation. So we line up here to get a copy of his beautiful book. He's a well-known author. He's a man of honor and dignity. He served many Islamic centers, many communities throughout North America. And we ask now today one of his young grandchildren, his granddaughter, Olivia Turfi, to come forward to introduce her father, her dad. So say salawat for Olivia.
Assalamu alaikum. Faith, as we know, is directly connected with the heart. God has warned us against the heart that is hardened, closed, sick, blind, and sealed. The spiritual health of our heart determines the strength of our faith. When our faith is weak, we can see it in our actions. Imam Ali's message to Kumail was to purify his heart. It gives me great pleasure to introduce my grandfather, Haj Talal Turfi, who embraces Dua Kumail as he has written a book entitled Awaken the Pure Heart. Please welcome my grandfather to discuss his book. Assalamu alaikum.
Beautifully said, Olivia. Really, really appreciate that. Well done. And Sayyid Ali, loved the way you recited from the Holy Quran. Sayyid Mustafa, thank you for inviting me. Salawat ala Muhammad and wa ali Muhammad. Perhaps the solution that you're looking for may be in this presentation, or in the book at least. You know, even with my granddaughter, when she was talking about Dua Kumail, and this is the evening which we recite, one of the things that I find that's wrong in our Muslim communities is while they read Dua Kumail, they listen to it, do they really understand it? You know, Kumail wasn't all that time. He had problems praising somebody who recited from the Quran beautifully, only to find out that that person was from the Khawarij, who caused a lot of problems. Imam Ali would teach him the secrets of truth. Or when he became the governor of Heat, city in Iraq, you know, you have other governors of Kufa and elsewhere, and he was told by Imam Ali, don't vacate your post no matter how tough it gets. Well, lo and behold, his friend, another governor in another part of Iraq, needed help because Muawiyah's army was in siege of where the other person was. So maybe like us, Kumail said, I have to go help. Well, that wasn't it. When Imam Ali saw him the next time, he chided him. He says, you weren't supposed to leave. You were supposed to remain. And we take that as a lesson. We built this Islamic center. We built other Islamic centers. We have a murshid. We have board of trustees. You don't leave no matter how tough it gets. That's a real message. You bite the bullet, you sit, you work to resolve. Perhaps, Sayyid, one of the things, idealistic as it is, perhaps board members, murshids, but the board members should all take an oath of Dua Kumail. If they really want to read it, understand it, then they'll never have problems in their board meetings. Well, anyway, that was just something I wanted to pick up. Again, my granddaughter, the book is gifted to her as well as my other two granddaughters, Maryam and Wanda. You know, in this book that I wrote, it takes a lot of deep thinking and trying to understand the subject. You know, are we rational beings? Do we follow all forms of logic? Do we only act if it feels right? Do we even want the facts all the time? Have we ever tried to persuade an emotional person with logic? It has been found that when we agree with a particular message, we tend to perceive it as being more logical or rational. On the other hand, when we disagree with the message, we perceive it as an emotional plea. The truth is that our decision-making process relies on a mixture between emotion and logic. However, we cannot rely entirely on emotion until our logical side has been engaged. Ever wonder why we use terms about our heart such as feeling from our heart, follow our heart, heartbroken, speaking from our heart, or heart skips a beat? Why do we associate the heart with love if we have been taught that all it really does is pump our blood. We are persuaded by reason, but we are moved by emotion. Emotion will always win over logic, and imagination will always win over reality. Our heads see the numbers and tell us to stick with a car that is more modestly priced, while our hearts see the gleaming luxury car, telling us to go home with a Jaguar. Or we shop for a car, and despite starting out shopping based on specific list of needs or specifications and price and wants, that little red convertible featured in the dealer showroom keeps calling us, and against our better judgment, we buy it. Our heads tell us not to believe everything we hear, that the person trying to make a real estate sale is deceptive, but our hearts are won over by his impassioned sales pitch. Still another example is when we date someone who's exciting and different because it's fun and it makes us feel adventurous, despite knowing deep down that it's not meant to last and that we may get hurt in the end if we let it get serious. Nevertheless, we convince ourselves we don't care. Imagine placing a plank of wood on the ground and walking its length a few times. Easy enough, right? But suppose we place the plank 100 feet in the air between two buildings. We know we can walk that plank, we just did on ground over and over again. Yet emotions and fears outweigh logic. Our what-ifs and our imaginations supersede the concrete knowledge of our ability to walk the plank. The heart is the first thing to be formed in the fetus, long before the brain. The heart is beating before the brain is even created. This means that the source of the heartbeat is in the heart, not the brain. Therefore, it has its own mind. The brain is kind of like the RAM in the computer, and the heart would be something like the processor. Our heart is affected by emotion, and when we feel something from the heart, it literally means it is from the heart. Yet we give our brain all the credit. Understanding emotions is more pertinent to leading a successful life than having a high intelligence. Often people of high IQ struggle at work because of their weaknesses in fundamental human relation skills, which we call emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is a type of social intelligence that involves the ability to monitor one's own emotions and the emotions of other people, and to use the information to guide one's thinking and action. If we ask veterans of hard-fought political campaigns which matters most, what a person feels or what a person thinks about a candidate, without exception, they will tell us that the heart overrules the head in the voting booth. The same goes for the way we make purchasing decisions, the way people vote on juries, and whether we support charitable causes. Even when we examine our legal system in the courts, we find the importance of the heart in the decision-making process. Juries seldom convict a person they like or acquit a person they dislike. That is why trial lawyers try to convince a jury to like their client, or at least to feel sympathy for their client, and to disregard facts regarding the crime as relatively unimportant. There are many people who seemingly have little or no regard for material possessions. They accept poverty as a normal living condition, and their major concern is whether they will sleep that night or eat that day. In contrast are the affluent that have the best our society has to offer at their disposal. Their houses, summer cottages, winter chalets, and automobiles are the envy of the community. Does either scenario bring contentment? No. Contentment is not fulfillment of what we want, but the realization of how much we already have. In America, this is difficult because almost all of advertising is geared toward showing how people who have more than us, enticing us to want it. They show us beautiful cars, beautiful houses, handsome men, beautiful women, and we can get it all with a credit card. If money can't buy contentment and poverty doesn't provide it, what is contentment and how is it attained? Contentment, contrary to public opinion, does not mean being satisfied where we are. Rather, it is God's plan for how we should live, having the conviction to live it, and believing that God's peace is greater than the world's problems. So often we get involved in the day-to-day activities of earning a living and raising a family that we forget our real purpose in life, to serve God. We discover that our lives are out of balance and don't know how to bring it back into balance. So we buy more things or get rid of things in order to bring back the balance. However, nothing seems to work. We get trapped into a discontented life by adopting worldly goals, more, bigger, and best. The monotheistic scriptures such as the Torah, the Bible, the Quran identify these as indulgence, greed, and pride. Once a certain level of income, spending, and lifestyle is attained, many will go into debt in order to maintain that level. Stepping down to an affordable level may be considered failure, yet contentment cannot be achieved without personal discipline and staying within the lifestyle parameter God has established. In poverty, the issue is usually black and white. We either have it or we don't. In affluence, the deception is much more subtle because anxieties and worries are not usually related to the lack of things, but rather to the loss of things. In essence, most affluent people fear they might lose the material things they have acquired. Unless they are so detached from the goods that they must be willing to lose them, they won't find real contentment. That does not necessarily mean that they have to surrender all of their material possessions. It means being willing to do so. Contentment is so far removed from many of us that it seems that we will never be able to find it or to be at peace. However, contentment is not something that must be searched for and found. It is an attitude of the heart. Once the attitude has been modified and all has been transferred to God, contentment will be evident. We find in the Quran that says, "The day when will avail not wealth or sons, save him who comes unto God with a heart submissive." Qalbun Salim. Qalbun Salim, that is the sound, the pure heart, means that all the qualities, whether they're latent or manifest, have been given to it are not wasted. The immense potential that God has bestowed to the human heart is intact and well used and not disused. If each faculty of the heart remains in its right proportion and limits, and each does its job in a just manner, it can be called Salim, which means safe, sound, healthy. What is safe is sound and healthy as well. If it is not safe, it is not sound and healthy. That means the heart is diseased. Awaken the Pure Heart is a book that illustrates the importance of the heart in our daily activities, not only in the physical sense, but the emotional, mental, and spiritual aspects as well. We will explore how emotional intelligence has an impact on the pure heart from the vantage point of whether or not the heart can actually think. In addition, the characteristics, categories, and spiritual cures for the disease of the heart will be discussed. Moreover, just like the Torah for the Jews and the Bible for the Christians, the importance of the Quran as a healing source for the distressed pure heart will be emphasized. In the field of neurocardiology, science has discovered that the heart possesses its own intrinsic networking system. The heart sends emotional and intuitive signals as it processes and decodes intuitive information. The heart directs and aligns many systems in the body so that they can function in harmony with one another. The heart is in constant communication with the brain, and both the heart and brain receive and respond to information about a future event before that event actually happens. The heart's intrinsic brain and nervous system relay information back to the brain and the cranium, creating a two-way communication system between the heart and brain. The heart makes many of its own decisions. The heart starts beating in the unborn fetus before the brain has been formed, a process science called autorhythmic. Humans form an emotional brain long before a rational one and a beating heart before either. The heart has its own independent complex nervous system known as the brain of the heart. So science is also beginning to understand that the electromagnetic field around the heart has a powerful effect, not just on the human body, but also on other people. And here is something interesting. The electrical impulse of each heartbeat can be measured 3 to 4 feet from the body. The electrical impulse of the heart is 40 to 60 times stronger than that of the brain. It is many times much stronger than any other electrical impulse in the body. Research has also shown that the heart is the key component of the emotional system. The heart not only responds to emotions, but the signal it sends out dramatically affects the quality of the emotional experience from moment to moment. Yet in school, we have been taught that the heart is constantly responding to orders from the brain. But what is less commonly talked about is that the brain receives even more orders from the heart. We have been doing it backwards. Following are just some quotes from the Quran regarding the importance of the heart. The first quote, "Do they not travel through the land so that their hearts may thus learn wisdom and their ears may thus learn to hear? Truly it is not their eyes that are blind, but their hearts that are in their breasts." Another quote, "Do they not earnestly seek to understand the Quran, or do they lock up their hearts?" Most of us are not aware of the heart's thinking ability. Traditionally, the study of communication pathways between the brain and heart have been approached from a rather one-sided perspective, with scientists focusing primarily on the heart's response to the brain's commands. Now, we learn from research that communication between the heart and brain is actually dynamic, ongoing, two-way dialogue, with each organ continuously influencing the other's function. Scientists also believe that the heart has its own brain, an intrinsic nervous system. For the scientists, it is not yet clear if the heart is subservient to the higher brain, but it is clear that the heart thinks. How wonderful scientists are now beginning to believe and agree with what the Quran taught us about the heart 14 centuries ago. A heart that is salim, sound, is a heart free from disbelief, evil, hypocrisy, and sins. A heart only beats for God. A heart that loves God, trusts in God, hopes in God, fears God. A heart that loves what God loves and hates what God hates. A heart that is free from envy, jealousy, anger, stinginess, and cowardliness. A heart that is pleased with what God decrees. And this is our goal in life, which is to purify the heart from all imperfections. For the one who can purify the heart is guaranteed success in this life and, more importantly, in the hereafter. Some may say, isn't the purpose of life to worship God? Yes, but we cannot truly worship God unless we have a salim, sound heart. Moreover, the act of worship is to purify the heart. In all acts of worship, their main purpose is to purify the heart so that we can come to God on the day of judgment with a heart that is salim, sound. Our children have grown up surrounded by advertisements on television, the radio, and billboards. They want everything they see or hear, and they expect to get it now. But how can we teach them to be content if we are not content ourselves? Instead of wanting everything we see or hear, we need to learn to resist. Instead of letting our children have everything they want, we need to teach them to be thankful for what they already have. The Quran tells us, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفُعُ مَالٌ وَلَا بَنُونَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَعْطَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. The day when there will not benefit any wealth of children, but only who comes to Allah with a sound heart. In conclusion, think always of the things that will draw us nearer to God. We have a purpose in life. As our hearts change and become pure, attraction to the world fades and we wonder why we ever possess such hollow desires. We become happier, more giving, more at peace. We must exchange shrunken hearts for expanding hearts. We must exchange spotted hearts for pure hearts. And in doing so, we will awaken the pure heart. Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you. Oh.